it's because you're so trusting and it's because you're so naive that a guy like that can roll all over you.
I didn't really realize that people had the capacity to lie like that. I was able to fully forgive and let this go because forgiveness is about me. Forgiveness is not about two people. Reconciliation is. And I think where it gets twisted is like, well, we gotta save the marriage and you know, you don't get divorced because God hates that. When you're in a situation where there's a lot of intentional psychological manipulation, there is a loss of a sense of self. Yeah. And people can say their gut, Holy Spirit, there's that inner thing that when you're in these types of relationships, you sort of lose that.
What would you say, here are red flags to begin asking the questions?
Some of the biggest red flags when I hear someone talking about a relationship they're in.
Hey everybody, this is Rita Springer. Welcome again to another episode of the Rita Springer podcast. And worship is my weapon. We are deep now in the heart of fall. And I want to give a shout out to Amazing Life Foundation. They are why we are able to bring this podcast to you every week. And I so appreciate everybody that works so hard to edit and to just make this podcast possible. So shout out to Amazing Life Foundation, and just can't do it without them, and want to shout that out. I have a subject that I don't normally talk about unless it's probably in a private matter, but I really felt like I reached out to a friend of mine about her struggle and her divorce. And I just thought, you know what? I wanted to have my friend Betty Joyce come on and tell her story, because I think her story is, Betty, is profoundly going to be life-changing for a lot of young women who believe in promise, kind of have stars in their eyes a bit. All the things that I actually love about being a woman, like the tender parts, the strong parts, the nurturing parts, the believing parts, all of those things. And your story's kind of riveting. And you and I have a history. So you're also the only girl I think I know with two first names. First of all, why Betty Joyce? I know you've told me this before. Is it like a grandmother or something?
My mom's mom was Betty and my dad's mom was Joyce. So they decided to name me after both of my grandmas. So they named me Betty Joyce.
But people call you kind of Betty Joyce.
Well,
and you write out your names.
Yeah.
Those names.
As a kid, they called me by my initials because they couldn't pick which grandma.
Yeah, people do call you nicknames.
And then my professional career, when I started putting out, signs, I just started saying Betty because it was easier. So if I introduce myself, I usually say Betty. I don't throw the Joyce in there. And then people were like, if I do say Joyce, they're like, are you Southern?
Well, I think
two first names is Southern.
Your Instagram account, it's like you don't see my middle name in there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I've always thought, well, maybe she likes to be called Betty Joyce.
Yeah.
But I think it's a fabulous name.
It's very old school, so it was super popular in the 30s.
Yeah.
But I think now people think I'm like over 70. They hear my voice, they're like, oh, you're younger than I thought. I'm like,
whenever I see a little girl and her name's Betty or Betsy, I love that now. I think that name's probably coming back.
It could have a comeback.
You are also, shout out to the Dallas region, Dallas, Texas region. You are probably one of the best, wouldn't you say? I mean, I know you're not going to shout out, but you're killing it in the real estate market. You've been a real estate agent there for years. Yeah. You sold my house when I left Dallas and moved to Nashville in 2019. We knew each other way before that. Yeah. But that's what you do as a job. But you are also a worship leader, song singer. Do you write? You write songs?
Yeah, not a ton, but I do.
Yeah. And so I want you to kind of take us back. This is a kind of a pretty intense story, but we kind of met in the worship field. You're part of the Upper Room Church in Dallas, Texas. You've been there for years. You lead on some of their teams and their
prayer sets.
Sets. That's where I met you. Where's the first time? You would probably remember more than I would.
I think we were at a conference at Lifestyle, I think, and you were leading, and my now ex-husband was playing guitar, and you prayed over him, and you were so kind to me. I think that's the very first time I met you. But then we traveled with you a little bit.
Yes.
I sang with you.
You guys went out. I think I went out more with Matt than I did with both of you. Mm-hmm. But we would go out on conferences and actually see the Lord do some pretty beautiful things. Yeah. You are an amazing singer, and you're actually really great as a co-lead. Like, I loved co-leading with you because you have a beautiful anointing on you. And okay, so just tell your story, because your whole story was a shock to me, because I really considered your ex like almost like a son.
Yeah.
And spent time really pouring life into him and encouraging him. And that was one thing I didn't see that coming. I could see a lot of stuff coming, but I didn't see that one coming. Yeah. So just kind of start off your story. Tell us a little about your story, and then we're going to kind of get into all the ins and outs.
Okay. Yeah, it's funny now that I've had enough time, and I'm kind of more I'm definitely on the other side of it, which is amazing. But essentially, my story is one, I met my ex-husband now at church.
Yep.
He was a pastor's son, a worship leader. We led worship together. We traveled with our worship team together. All the prophetic words together. And, we get married, and, let's fast forward. I have a lot I could share, but essentially in a nutshell, in 2020, a couple months leading up to this, I would say, to finding out, was probably one of the worst times of my life. But in October of 2020, he got caught in a very public affair with a sort of famous worship leader's wife.
Ex-wife.
And he was ex-wife, and he was on staff at our church. He was working at other ministries. He was a worship leader.
Yeah.
We were doing prayer set together, all the things, right?
Yeah.
And
you guys were known for that.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I knew when I found out about this big affair, it was someone out in California. I was like, you don't go from 0 to 1,000. Like, there's no way you start with something like this. And so sure enough, I started finding out about and all kinds of things that just were under the surface. And it was devastating.
Yeah.
And I would say leading up to it, I had several months I was so confused. I mean, I knew something was wrong. I didn't know, and I could have never.
This is the least thing that you're ever thinking.
Would have never expected it.
Right.
Never.
Right.
I started asking questions. I would even say, is there something going on? Is there another woman? And I would be met with, I would never do that. I could never do that. You're just accusing me. So then I would think I was accusing. So then I would apologize. And there was sort of this dynamic of, well, no, I mean, I've asked him and he says no. And I didn't really realize, in my little naive self, I didn't really realize that people had the capacity to lie like that. I mean, to just stare you in the face and, no, I don't know what you're talking about.
Right,
I'm like, and don't get me wrong, we've all lied before, but it was this ability to, like, I was convinced there's no way that could be going on. And then as it started unraveling, when I actually found out about the affair, I felt, and I'm sure that there'll be a lot of women that can agree with this, because as I've talked with other women that have been through this, there's a sense of relief in a weird way.
You're probably not going to think that in the midst of it, but is that an afterthought? Like, that was actually quite relieving? Well, or do you feel the relief?
The relief was, oh, I'm not crazy. It wasn't, oh, this happened. I was not relieved that it happened, but I was like, oh, that's what's been going on. I'm not crazy. I knew something was wrong, but the way that I was lied to and, told, you're just being accusatory, you're just, you're twisting things, when I would say a fact. Whenever it came out, I was like, oh, there it is. So there was this sense of relief of, like, I'm not insane.
Yeah.
Then I had to deal with the, being on the other side of that chair, hearing that your husband has been having an affair with another woman, and that's devastating. There's no word for that.
And traveling for worship while doing it.
Yeah. And I think over here thinking, you're going to work on a record or doing this, and there's all these other things happening that I don't know about.
Right.
So then there's the sense of feeling extremely duped.
Yeah.
And, when you're a really trusting person that will sort of trusting to a fault, right? You trust and you verify, right? I would leave out the verify part and I would just blindly trust. So I've learned, but all that to say that really started a journey of just my world crumbled. I mean, I felt like the rug got pulled out from underneath me. Here I did all the right things. I thought I did all the right things. And now this is where I'm left. And I still would have never left him. And I was contending for marriage 2.0, we're going to come through this. We're going to reconcile. And then it's not the way the story went. And so having to wrestle with God in this time of like, where did I get this wrong? When did I get it wrong?
Yeah.
And how in the world am I supposed to pick up the pieces? I felt like my world shattered. And then I also felt like it was a false reality.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, all of this was fit, which is not true, right?
Yeah.
I think there was a part of him that wanted to be married, wanted to be a worship leader. I think there were just two things going on at the same time. And I think that shame is wild. And I have deep compassion for even the betrayers that, in the world, because that's not freedom either. Right. And I think something had to have happened as a kid. Like you don't get to certain levels without just something going.
So that's where I want to like pull you back to the fragility, but the strength of actually who you were prior to knowing, and where you saw weakness after that, and where you had to grow in maturity with not the fear of constantly being on your guard with you can't trust anybody. You're a really trusting person, and that's actually a really beautiful trait. And I think some of the things that I watch women go through in circumstances like this is that they all of a sudden, all the roots are pulled up and everything about them is in question. And I remember having so many conversations with you on the phone where your naive, qualities. I remember that we had one conversation and I just was like, Betty, because I was like, Betty, did he ever do this? And you were like, well, no, I mean, he kind of did this. And it was like, Betty, go get the receipts. Betty, get the checking account. Betty. Yeah. And I've never been married. And that's just like having the conversation over and over and over and over and over with people like you, where I actually, your personality and characteristics in the naive thing are actually quite beautiful to be that trusting. So there's that balance swing of, okay, naive, sweet Betty, someone that, like you're saying, there had to be something going on in that boy's childhood that leads him to a narcissism and a blame game and a manipulation that is primed to actually look for somebody like you, so that they can play upon the naive, I'm going to believe what you say because I believe that you believe in me and I believe in you and I'm trusting. And many women come to the table in that. And do you feel like that's why there's such a shell shock? Because all of a sudden, who you are and your characteristics and traits that are actually quite stunning are pulled up by the roots. And it's like, well, it's because you're so trusting and it's because you're so naive that a guy like that can roll all over you. Where's the balance for you? Because nobody wants to lose the Betty that everybody loves, that actually is where you carry the anointing.
Right.
And I want you to actually talk about that, because I feel like that's a huge pinpoint for these really beautiful women, that some who've never been married, but find the narcissistic guys. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like I talk to them almost every day. And then those like you that have been in brutal marriages where they're going to choose loyalty first because it's biblical or whatever, when what they're dealing with sometimes is far beyond a healing process that they could even try to do. Can you kind of break down the balance in you that, okay, parts of you that are generally beautiful, that here you are, it took you weeks and months to come to terms with
reality.
The reality of his lies.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a bystander. And I was like, what? Like, I was so in shock that to put myself in your position was like, good grief. All of that's excusable. But where do you make sure that you're, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Keeping your heart intact.
Yeah.
When the whole thing's been pulled out from underneath you, and you're not just losing your marriage, but you're now losing all the trust you come to the table with. Right. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. How do you, in the beginning, do you feel like you lost everything and then you had to regain your innocence again?
Yeah. Yeah, you definitely, there was a sense of loss of, I knew I'm not going to come out of this the same. And I remember being like, I just don't want to get bitter. I don't want to be a bitter woman. It's like, ew, all men. But I also knew I can't put the toothpaste back in the tube. I can't go back to life without this happening, right? It's with any trauma. It's with any loss. Yeah. It's with death. You can't just go, oh, just kidding. Right. And being a very, I would say I can tend to positively reframe things.
Betty, you are the most positive human being I've ever met. And I think that's where conversations with you in this early on, it was like, Betty.
Well, and I was convinced, I even told my therapist at one point, I was like, I think I'm really negative. And he's like, what? Because my ex, I would say, I would say something, I would bring something up to confront, and he'd be like, oh, you're just being negative. So I thought I was negative, and my therapist was like, has anyone else in your life ever told you that you're negative? And I was like, no. People tell me I'm like a positive Polly, right? So I had to step back and go, oh, wow. But as far as not putting the toothpaste back in the tube like you can't, I was sitting with this place of, okay, here we are. This is going to change me. And my therapist was like, well, what it's going to do is it's going to make you wiser. You're going to have a little bit more cynicism because there's no way you can't.
Right.
But it doesn't mean that you're going to lose all of your trust. You can still fully learn. You can still fully open up and trust someone. But it's like trust and verify. Yeah. I wouldn't verify. I would just trust. So it's beautiful.
Wait, break that down for women. Verify. No, you wouldn't verify, but you would just give blind trust.
I was blindly trust what you say. And, one of the things was we didn't have a bank account together because he wouldn't do it. And so I just trusted, and I didn't ever verify, and I didn't have a reason to, or I didn't think I had a reason to. And you don't want to be that nagging, or you don't want to be that person that's asking a lot, right? So you just, you sort of give people what they want. And trust should be earned, especially once it's been broken. But there were little fractures throughout the whole thing that I could have easily said, well, that's not right. But I would somehow be like, well, and I grew up very Christian. Yeah. So you cover,
very Christian.
You
What's
cover
that mean?
I grew up Baptist and extremely conservative. And, as a wife, you cover, you submit. They're the head of the household. Yeah. So in the wrong hands, someone that says, I'm your husband, I submit to me. Well, that can be very abusive.
Right.
And you just think you're being a good Christian wife.
Right.
And so you completely lose your voice. You completely lose the sense of like, what do I deserve in this? Right?
Yeah.
Because you're not allowed to. And so there was a sense of, I have to submit, I have to cover.
And is that lost in the blind trust?
Yeah, I think it gets lost in the blind trust. And I think that when you feel this need, it's also, honestly, you don't want to look at it because it's painful. If you look at the reality of what this is, it hurts.
Yeah.
You know, so there's a sense of when you do positively reframe, you're minimizing your experience and what you're going through, all for the sake of what?
Yeah.
But you feel like you're protecting yourself from the pain, and you're not, because it'll come for you anyways, you know?
Yeah, and some of that's shock, I would assume.
Right. Oh, yeah. There's layers.
Literal shock.
There's so many layers. And I always talk about this, but grief, you have 5 stages of grief.
Talk about that. We talked about that a little yesterday.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I hope she brings that up.
Yeah, there's 5 stages of grief. Denial.
Yeah.
Which is what it sounds like. You're just like, this isn't happening. I lived there. Bargaining. And bargaining says, well, if I could have done this, then this wouldn't have happened. Like, I should have done this, and this is where I really camped out.
Break this down, because this is
so
good for
if I were skinnier, if I were funnier, if I were prettier, if I were more successful, if I had the hair extensions and the lip fillers, and if I did all of these
stuff
things
that he left you for.
Correct. And that was another really hard part of it, right? It was this, Instagram influencer model type person. And I was like, I needed to be this, because obviously there was something missing in me that he needed that I couldn't give him, or that I wasn't giving him. So I would very quickly bargain. And when I figured out that that was grief, a stage of grief, it was very helpful for me, because I was like, okay. And also, if I could make it about me, then I could fix it, right? I had a sense of control.
That's part of the bargain.
You're like, if I can somehow in my brain rationalize and overly own and put this on me, then I can fix it. Instead of sitting in the reality of, this was someone else's choices, and it probably doesn't matter how skinny I am, or it probably doesn't matter, right? Even the person, like, then they end up cheating on that person, right? That's not the problem. You see these women, you see like Tiger Woods' wife, one of the most stunning women, that he, serial cheater on her. It's like, you look at this, but you so quickly want to be like, there's got to be something that I did that causes. And I do think it's healthy and really beneficial to look at your stuff, right? Like, I think a lot of times, if women were really honest, you enabled dysfunctional behavior at some point.
Okay, wait. Somewhere you, as the female, enabled dysfunctional behavior within your marriage.
Yeah, I would say it goes really deep. Yeah. I don't think it's an intentional, I'm just going to enable bad behavior.
Right.
It's like the alcoholic that keeps coming home, and the wife just keeps having warm food on the table and not setting boundaries, right? And that's a really extreme example. But I think going back to when I was a kid. Yeah. Okay. My parents are amazing. My dad, the story I was told as a kid was my dad only wanted 2 kids, and I'm the third. And so I always had this feeling of I wasn't really wanted, and I'm a burden. And my dad loved me. They were like, you're the apple of his eye. But what I heard, you grab onto lies, right? And they get rooted in there. And so what I heard was, you need to add value in order for this to be okay, that you're here. So I would clean the house and do all the things. And then
being the third wheel.
Right. And just like, oh, I need to make sure that everything's good here for everyone else. So of course I started learning how to really quickly suppress my needs, because if you have a need, it's the opposite of adding value. Yeah. You're asking something from someone, right? Yeah. So I learned as a very small little girl to make sure everybody else is okay, because then it's okay if I'm okay. Well, put that in the context of a marriage, and you're getting breadcrumbs from someone. I mean, I would ask, can you please send me one nice text message when you go on this trip? Like, I'm asking for
You would ask him for that?
Yeah. Baseline, border, like the bar's on the floor here. We're asking for not much. But because of my deep wound, because of my deep wound, I thought breadcrumbs feel like a feast, right? So you have to look at the part of you, the pieces of you that are okay with being treated like that. And that was one of the most devastating things and the biggest wake-up call for me. That's what I'll say to people that are going through it. Like, there is a great gift in walking through this kind of pain, because if you will, it will produce something really powerful in you, and you'll start to see, and with compassion towards yourself, go, man, why was I so okay with being treated like that? What was it in me that was okay with that? And that's what I mean by enabling dysfunction.
Because you're bringing a dysfunction about yourself into a marriage without seeing it.
Right.
And I don't even think too, Betty, you would agree with this. It's not just about a marriage. It's like you could bring that dysfunction into a job and disrupt the job. Friendships, all those kind of things. We have terrible relationship with the church. And every time we swap churches, we bring our dysfunction in the church. So that's actually revelatory, I think, for people to recognize, even asking yourself the question, what was my bringing to the table here that enabled or allowed the behavior in him to actually accelerate?
Exactly. And going back to the bargaining, when you're taking that as, even when you start to see those layers of I enabled dysfunction, then it's like, well, if I hadn't have done that, then, and at the end of the day, you're in a mental loop that's not getting you anywhere, but you're grieving, right? The third stage is depression. The fourth is anger. And those, growing up really in Christian household, we don't look at depression, we don't look at anger.
We certainly don't talk about it.
We don't talk about it. Yeah. For me, it was like, you don't let the sun go down. And I just didn't know how to handle, like, how do I, and there's a sense of, well, if I open up that can of worms, am I going to sit here and be an angry, sinister woman? Am I going to end up not able to get out of bed for 3 years? And like, there's a sense of like, what happens if I do invite that in? Is it going to take me over? Right? Yeah. So, but they're necessary to walk through.
Yeah. I thought it was fascinating when you were talking about that particular element of grief in our previous conversation, where you were like, that you woke up one day and you're like, I don't want to get out of bed. I just want to stay in bed.
Yeah. Yeah. I had a couple of days like that. And depression and anger were, like I said, the ones I did not
Baptist girl, you
sit
don't know.
in. I was like, let's deny and let's bargain. I'm not gonna do that. But I remember specifically this one day where I realized the more I resist this, like there's a saying, what you resist persists. I was like, the more I keep resisting this, the more it's just gonna be here. And there's a sense of, I gotta let this ride its course, right? I used the analogy yesterday of when you have a fever and you keep taking, Tylenol, which is fine. But sometimes the fever just needs to run its course. The fever breaks and it's actually healing. Your body heals. Your fever is fighting off infection, right? Yeah. So I was like, I'm gonna do this, but I'm gonna set some parameters for myself. And so I essentially set an alarm. I was like, I'm gonna let myself be in bed till 4 p.m. I texted a friend, which
I thought this was brilliant.
I texted a friend. I said, hey, I'm having a day and I can't get out of bed.
Yeah.
But I'm giving myself until 4 o'clock. And if I haven't responded to you, like if reach out to me by 4 o'clock. If I don't respond to you, you have permission to come over and get me out of bed. So I think setting a boundary within your own self,
so even like, I'm going to stay in bed till 4 o'clock.
I have till 4, and it let me be there. It let me sulk. It let me. I'm depressed. It let me have the experience of the grief of depression, but I didn't let myself live there. And the same thing with anger. I would be like, it was so hard for me. It took me years to actually feel the anger part of it. I would have other people angry for me all day long. They're like, this is ridiculous. Like, especially going through the process of divorce and, you know, almost like giving away things just for what, right? And I'd have people be angry for me, but letting yourself go through those things are really important. And then the fifth stage is acceptance. And I used to think, oh, I just got to get to the acceptance stage of grief because then you accept it. Yeah. And I think getting to the acceptance part was one of the most painful ones, because then you are sitting with this is my story now and I can't take it back. There's nothing I can do. It is what it is. Right? Yeah. And so sitting in the grief of this is my story now, and it wasn't like I hit acceptance and I was ready to just seize the day.
Because it's a story you would never want to be told.
It's a story I never wanted to be told. I never wanted to live. And now on the other side of it, I am grateful. Right. I'm extremely grateful. And I mean, my verse, you know, is James 1, consider it pure joy when you go through trials because of what it produces. Yeah. And I would have never picked that verse. That's like, why would you say that? Yeah. Why would you say consider it joy when you encounter trials? But I've seen what happens on the other side and what it produces in you if you let it. Same thing could happen to the one who's the cheater. If you let it, this is your greatest opportunity. You're in so much pain. This is your greatest opportunity to let this be a transformative thing in your life, to come out on the other side and deal with your stuff. Yeah. It's exposing. Once everything's out, I remember with my ex, I was like, when it came out, I was like, this is the fierce love of God over you and over me, because now we can deal with it, right? When it's in the light, you can deal with it. It's not fun. It's not pretty, but it's out there now, and you can move through it and come out on the other side with some scars, but those scars are so beautiful, and you will change the way that you perceive yourself. Yeah. My self-value, the things I walked through this experience, I couldn't have got without it. And I think it had to be so big and so bad. I mean, I would have been 30 years in, 5 kids, financially. I've seen this happen. Yeah. And they're doing the same thing for years and years and years, and the cycle doesn't end, right? So in a sense, I feel like I was rescued, delivered in so many ways, but the journey of me getting back to, where have I held my value?
For you.
For me. Where have I held it? And where along the way have I been giving myself to people and things that don't reciprocate? You know,
so it was a kind of a self-rediscovery for you
100%.
Of rediscovering that. What I want to kind of unpack a little bit more, because I feel like this is never talked about. Mm-hmm. Divorce. Yeah. That we don't really talk about divorce in terms of church faith, because it's always save the marriage, save the marriage, save the marriage. Divorce is wrong. Divorce goes against the principles of the Bible and God and da-da-da. And God hates divorce. And those are things I've grown up hearing. I do believe that God hates divorce. I think he hates divorce in any way, shape, or form. But I think what he hates more than anything is he hates an obstinate heart, and a heart that will not bend, and someone who breaks covenant. Right. So you're in this unbelievable stage where you're kind of in this unbelief. You're finding out things about your ex-husband that it felt like almost every day, every week, it was like something new. But the first thing you do is you're like, we're going to save this. We're going to save this because God hates divorce, which is the right avenue to take. Always save. If there's a possibility to save something, save it. But for women, this is a big deal, because it feels like there's an expectation for the woman to just forgive, especially in an infidelity as great as this. Right. Forgive and forget, forgive and believe the best. How was your early stages of, I'm going to save this. We're not getting a divorce. Because you did, and it felt like every time you met with counsel, something new came out.
Yeah.
Something new came out.
I think there's a sense of what people don't talk about.
Yeah.
Reconciling a marriage when there's been a massive fracture.
Yeah.
It takes work on both parties, right?
Yeah.
And reconciliation takes two. Forgiveness is a one-way street. I was able to fully forgive without receiving an apology. I was able to fully forgive and let this go because forgiveness is about me letting go of the chain that this has been on me. Forgiveness is not about two people. Reconciliation is about two parties.
Okay.
And I think where it gets twisted is like, well, we got to save the marriage and you don't get divorced because God hates that. When you don't have two people, and usually there's one side that's heavier than the other, whether it be a man or a woman, that are willing to own their stuff, grow, and work together to get to a good place, that's not a marriage.
Anything.
It's not a marriage. And there's people that stay in them and that are stuck in them that, in my opinion, I'm like, what are you doing? This is not freedom. This is, you're caring about what it looks like that you get a divorce, because it's very shameful. I remember walking into church and I felt like everybody knew because it was on the internet. It was on Reddit.
Right.
Like there was a sense of this, the publicness of it. Actually, I'm grateful for, because I had to just face it.
Yeah.
I couldn't, if it was a assistant at work or a secretary or some TCU girl or something, it would be like, okay, but it was out there. So I had to be like, okay, well, here we are. And I felt like I was this, here walks in the divorcee, the divorced woman with and then there's all the thoughts of what are people thinking of me? And, are they thinking that I was throwing plates and we were yelling at each other and I was refusing intimacy? And I had this thought of like, how I'm going to be perceived.
How are you going to be perceived?
And at the end of the day, doesn't matter what you're walking through. You can never control that. You can never control how someone else is going to view you. When you walk around trying to make sure that you're perceived in a certain way, I mean, we all walk around this life with certain filters of experience of what we've been through. And you can have the purest heart and the best motives, and someone can still look at you and go, ugh, right? You can't control that.
Yeah.
And I think there's this sense of, we can't be the divorce. We can't walk through this because I don't want to deal with what it looks like. And God hates it. And so we put all these things on there and we're not looking at the root of it, right? God hates broken covenant.
Right.
God hates that you've been living in, God is for freedom.
Yeah.
And even the sense of, I remember having a moment where with my ex, I wanted to save it.
You were trying hard to
I
save
did.
it.
And I was really willing. I was like, if I'm in the wrong here, like I will, whatever I need to do. But at the end of the day, like trying to save someone else who's not wanting to work on themselves, you're not saving anything.
Yeah.
And I would go as far as to say that's not really a marriage that you're in, right? And at the end of the day, love is freedom. Right? Like, we're not robots. We have free will. Like, I've had people be like, how do you still believe in God after all of this? And I'm like, I couldn't tell you how I could not.
Right.
Like in the journey and what he was
all
with
you had
me
was
in it.
The Lord. Yeah.
Right. But there's just this sense of like, love is freedom. And so you have to willingly release people to their journey. Yeah. If you don't want to be in this and you choose an affair or you choose another woman or you choose drugs or you choose alcohol or you choose whatever that thing is that you're grasping because you have a deep sense of not knowing who you are.
Yeah.
Like you can't control that. And at the end of the day, lovingly releasing someone. Now, if both people have the free choice and they both decide to get help and work together,
Right.
that's great.
Which was what you were hoping for.
That's what I was hoping for. And it's not the way the story went.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, there is a sense of you have to let the cards lie, right? Like everybody's got their own role in it. And if you're not going to choose to deal,
yeah.
right? And I think there's a sense of,
like for you, can you share a little bit about even counsel? Like Pastoral Council kind of called you and said,
yeah,
because they were discovering things and seeing things, and out of protection for you, they were just like, we don't think this is
and
gonna
that
work.
My pastors throughout the process were
Really
amazing.
Beautiful. Yeah.
I mean, on both sides, like they were in this for both of us, right? And I will say, when it hit the point, we hit some times.
Yeah.
My pastor called me at one point and he was like, "Hey, are you sitting down?" And I was like, "No." And some things he had discovered some things, and he was like, "Listen, like I'm always for restoration. I'm always for reconciliation." He was like, "But this is really bad." Yeah. And I remember almost needing that from a pastor. Yeah. And I think what's really scary is what I've learned in this process and in talking with other women is my experience was pretty rare. There's not a lot of that. I felt I need my pastor to say that this is okay, even though I still wasn't the one that did all the things.
Super rare.
But I remember feeling this sense of like, oh, I'm okay, right? Because I had a pastor in my life saying, this is not okay.
Yeah, and do you the thing I think that is so beautiful about that, because knowing you in that process, and we were talking a lot at that point because it was something new sometimes every week. But I remember you being so grateful that they were trying to gather you together.
Yeah.
And even in some of your things, they would actually have you in separate, they separated you and they protected you, which isn't always the case.
Correct.
And I think that that's why I bring up the discussion of let's talk about divorce as a whole, because women are made to feel so guilty because they're not saving it, or they choose to get divorced and they didn't save it. And in a lot of ways, it's like there's not much to save, but rarely do pastors actually ever do what they did. But the key, I think, there is when they saw and they invested in the two of you and saw that what was happening on the other side was not going to be beneficial or safe to you. Yeah. And then they actually put their arms around you and said, we're going to protect the innocent in this because the other party's not willing to do anything. Right. And I just felt like that was huge.
It was huge. I remember a day before the affair came out, my pastor pulled me aside. He was like, "Hey, we don't know what's going on with your ex. We love him. We're going to walk with him." He was like, "But I have the heart of God to protect you because you're being emotionally abused right now." And this is before the affair came out. And
he could sense it.
He could see it. And I'm like, the word abuse feels so big, and I don't want to say he's not abused. I don't want to. We don't say that about people. Like nobody does that, right? But at the same time,
there was like you were so good.
But at the same time, right? Like even later on, they were in it with me, and they even went as far as like, "Hey, don't meet alone." Because what happens is,
I remembered this.
And this was really hard for me because I felt like I was doing the wrong thing to not meet with him alone. But it was like, he was
trying to get you alone.
It was they were like, he manipulates you and you end up apologizing. And we've watched it happen time and time again. There was a time that I actually asked for his phone.
Yep. I remember this.
I remember like, I felt so bad and I knew he was going to be mad. He was a very private guy. I never got to see his phone. Big red flag, by the way.
Yeah.
But I remember feeling like, I'm sorry. Like, why am I apologizing at this point, right? And so they could see this and they
Yeah.
could see the like, I'm just kind of crumbling over here and not wanting him to be mad. And so there was a sense of I'm a doormat. And when you can see that on someone, it's like, okay, wait a minute, like what's happening here? But I remember them stepping in, putting structure around. They had a plan. It was like, we're going to go to this therapy.
God.
And I think not everybody can have that. I mean, there was a sense of we're on staff. Like, I don't think every pastor has the capacity for every person in their congregation to dive in. However, you need support. And I think whether it's a therapist or if you can find people within the church,
somebody to help you see what you're not seeing, because you're looking at you're looking to just try to save what you can save.
Right.
You're not looking at what's actually really happening.
And what I will also say, it requires, you have to get honest. You have to get really honest with what is going on and what's been going on.
Yeah.
And so if you're going to your pastors for help and you're giving them some half-truths, they were in it with me. Like,
and you,
they know things. I was like,
when was your moment of getting your moxie? Because we laugh about it, but it's like you called the husband of the woman that your husband had an affair with, or the ex-husband at the time, because that was a whole story. And, high profile guy. And you were like, you got his number, that was like, to me, that's a moxie move to find out can you just describe that? Because to me, it was like you were starting to actually want to know things you didn't want to know. Even as a mom, I'm just telling you, as a mom, sometimes it's like, maybe I don't want to know. Maybe I don't want to know what's actually really going on, because you kind of want to be a little bit in the dark.
Well, the term ignorance is bliss is a term for a reason, right?
Yeah.
I remember I found out on October 15th and in my journal on October 9th, I wrote in really big letters, I'm like, clarity and truth come to light. And at one point my pastor had been like, do you think he could be living a double life? And I was like, no, because I've asked questions and he says no, because I don't think we just lie about things like that, right? But I wrote in there and I said, my pastor asked if I thought he could be living a double life. And I said, I've always thought no, but that might be what's going on here. And I wrote it in my journal and I'm like, I need to know the truth. I need to know what's happening. And the way
you're telling that kind of to the Lord.
I'm telling that to God. I'm also trembling, right? I'm like, God, tell me, but I don't want to see it, right? Because I don't. It's painful. But the thing is, like, when there's self-betrayal, like, I'm gonna blindly not look at things because I don't want to see it. Right. So what you're ultimately doing is you're betraying yourself.
Okay.
And self-betrayal never ends well. It always ends in betrayal. Right. And so I remember being like, I don't want to do that. I want to know what's going on so that we can, it's like, open me up, doctor, and let's see what's what's going on. Are there cancer cells everywhere? Like, so we can deal with it. You know what I mean? So
some of us knew before you knew.
Yeah, and I think deep down, there was a lot of the responses would be like, well, I'm not really shocked. There was that sort of response, and I had to be like, yeah, if I were to dig really deep, I would have never thought to the level. Nothing could have got me there ever. And I had to also realize, like, it's okay that I trusted and believed my husband, right? But there was this level of like, the ignorance is not bliss. It's not. It's just denying what's happening. And I remember hitting a point, and that's why I also didn't want to believe any gossip or things that weren't true. So I was like, I need to go straight to the source, because I don't want there's this he said, she said, like, and I was like, no. And I don't want to believe anything that's not 100% fact.
Right.
Because what can also happen, things can we tell ourselves stories all day long, and things all of a sudden you're not really sitting in the integrity of what's happening. You've moved out of that. So I really wanted to.
And all of that kind of started with the integrity of this husband that was like, he had a line that he drew, and he was like, I'm not doing this with that person, because he knew things.
Yeah.
And so there was something that he knew, and that's why you were like, I'm going to the source, because he's where this whole thing started.
And he even told me, he's like, I'm only going to tell you what I know to be 100% true. He said, I've heard other things,
but I'm not telling you this.
Yeah. He's like, I'm only going to tell you what I know to be true, which is he's involved. There was all these things. But I remember being like, I know women who are these investigators, and they're, I was never like that. I wasn't like going on the bank account statements like, what are you doing? There's a lot. And I'm like, man, that's probably wouldn't happen to you. You probably will have that sense of like watching out for things.
You don't have a suspicious nature.
No. And I really did protect that. I was like, God, there's a part of me that I know this is going to change. But in the right hands, with the right man, being open-hearted, trusting, naive, if you will, it's like what you said earlier. It's a beautiful quality.
Quality.
I was so like, I don't want to suddenly flip a switch, and I'm this bitter, negative, angry, And the truth is, like, the journey of letting myself open that door into being wiser, having a bit more cynicism.
That's right.
Like, that felt hard.
That's a little moxie.
Mm-hmm. But I was like, no. Because the other side of this is, I'm not going to go here, and I can't stay here.
Yeah.
So I have an invitation to enter into a great awakening of discernment and wisdom. And I think I learned, before I could learn how to trust a man again, I had to learn how to trust myself again.
Right.
And when you're in a situation where there's a lot of, and I hate throwing out the word gaslighting, because I feel like people throw that around. It is intentional psychological manipulation. And when you're in that for a long time, there is a loss of a sense of self. Yeah. And people can say their gut, Holy Spirit, there's that inner thing that when you're in these types of relationships, you sort of lose that.
Right.
And you don't know how to find it again. So I had a journey of finding my inner voice, my gut.
Some of that, you said you started writing things down.
Yes.
In conversations, especially with him, you started writing down the conversation, your response, his response. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So that was a practical tool that I think was really helpful. Is I would write down, I said, quote, "You didn't come home last night." And then he said, quote, "Is that how you're twisting this?" And so then I thought I was manipulative, and I started repenting for manipulation. I literally repented. My elders were like, they were like, everybody has their stuff. You're not a perfect person, but like, you don't have a manipulative bone in your body. That's not what's happening right now. But that's what that would do. And when I started writing it down, and then I would read it, I would go, wait a minute. I said a fact. That was the fact. And I even went as far as
you didn't come home last night.
I said, how do you want me to say it? Do you want me to say you stayed at your studio? Is that a better way? I didn't know how to word it, because what I was getting met with was,
that's
you're twisting this.
Yeah.
And then I'd be like, well, maybe I'm twisting.
Which is narcissism.
Yeah. And so I started writing things down, and then later I would be like, if someone were to read that to me and go, what do you think about this? I'd be like, well, that's kind of insane. You said a fact, and then they told you were twisting things.
Yeah.
But being in it, you don't see it that way.
Yeah.
So writing things out is very helpful, because in the moment, you're always going to grab for your thing, your knee-jerk reaction, right?
Okay.
So if you're a people pleaser, your knee-jerk reaction when conflict arises, people please. If you're the one that's the peacemaker and you at all costs avoid conflict, you're going to grab for that. If you're the person that is a bulldozer and you get angry, like, your knee-jerk reaction is going to be anger, right? So I remember I would sort of do my thing, and that's why you have to look at your patterns. You have to look at your, what is the thing that you do and why? So I had to go back to that little girl in me that needed it to be all be okay, and I need to add value. to make sure that everybody else is okay around me, because if everybody else is okay, then I'm okay.
Yeah.
Right. And if you can really look at that stuff, which is also painful, it's also why we don't do it. Right. It's not easy to go, man, that's really devastating for a little girl to experience.
Right.
And when I would do that, though, I'd be like, okay, my knee-jerk reaction is overly own, people please, and really lose myself. And even I would say reality, right? So being able to write things down and objectively look at it later, I would be like, I'm not crazy. This is what happened.
Yeah.
And I think what's hard is then later it's like, well, I didn't say that. I didn't say it like that. And then I'm like, maybe I didn't say it that way, right? So there's just this, like, you can switch, but I think writing it down can be really beneficial, because you're like, no, I was in the moment, I was clear-headed, and I wrote down what happened.
Yeah.
And if someone else were to come and ask me what I think about this situation, and I take myself out of it, because when you're in it, you're in a fog. You're in a fog, and you don't see. And it took me a really long time to sort of get out of the fog of it. And I think if you have children together, if you're, there's things that are really, 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 really hard that I didn't have to work through. But it can make it even harder to get to the other side of seeing it for what it is, right?
Hey, a little segue here to just remind those of you who really love what the podcast is carrying, love what I do. You know that I mentor, you know that I work with creative and artists. We are in some exciting things this year with my nonprofit, Wearing Justice, but I can't do a lot of these things unless I have help and donations. We are a charitable organization, a nonprofit, and it's Christian education based. And if you are out there and you love to donate to things that not just inspire people, but heal people while people are being inspired, would you consider donating to my nonprofit, Wearing Justice? If you just click this QR code that you're seeing on the screen, you can donate and give any amount of donation. It was greatly appreciated. I would so appreciate it, because I can keep doing what I feel like God's called me to do, and really keep believing in artists everywhere and how God is using the arts to heal people's heart. And I love that. I just love what I do. I want to keep this up, but I need your help to do it. So would you consider today making a donation to Wearing Justice and help keep this all up and running? Okay, I want to start to talk about the beauty of what God's brought you through, but I want to talk two more things. First thing is I just want to sit in the other woman for just a minute, because it's another woman, and it's almost inconceivable for those of us that hear the stories, or in the stories, or have friends like you that are, as a woman, I just don't have a grid. And so you're betrayed by another woman who makes then you feel like something's wrong with you that she had that you didn't have. Like, there is a mental twisted demonic thing that happens, I think, with women.
Yeah.
And it has to do with worth. It has to do with identity. But there is so much about the facade that we're building of what we think a man wants. I mean, you and I have joked around a little bit about, not joked around, but you know,
yeah.
Like when we see certain people and they're just, they spent a lot of money. Let's just put it there. They've just spent a lot of money doing stuff that their skin's too young to even want to actually have to do. And you're like, because I feel like the fog thing that you're talking about, I'm like, I ain't in no fog. And I'm looking at that and I'm thinking, I think this about if I ever see the Kardashians. Like, it's not that, I think some of their personalities are actually quite hilarious. But I'm like, what are you doing to yourself? Like, what are you doing? You look worse than you've ever looked.
Yeah.
And you think you've convinced yourself that you look better.
Right.
And that dilemma that then sets itself on a woman like you to say, you're not enough.
Yeah.
Because that's the new model.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're in your right mind and you're looking at what people are saying is the new model, and you're like, that's the new model?
Yeah.
Like that plastic looking thing that we're trying to build, that can't be the model.
Yeah.
And then that worries me for men, because I'm like, what kind of a guy anyways going after? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Can you just, having lived in it, can you bring some order to that for me? Because I don't have a grid. Like, I don't have a grid.
Yeah.
I get facials and love the facials and taking care of your skin and but the thing that we're doing as women to try to get the attention of men, and then reconstructing ourselves and what we look like, thinking that we look great. I don't get this. I don't have a grid for this.
I think that, I don't know that I can fully unpack all of that because I think there's a lot of layers for different women as to why. We live in such a world of filters, and there's this like, oh, if I can swipe this or swipe, like all of a sudden I look more fresh, and we've lost a sense of, I would even say, healthy, like I struggled with this when I was younger. Like, I would restrict food. I had such like absolutely, because I want to be this certain, we're all made very differently. Yeah. One woman is size 2 and another woman is size 2. Like, somebody that's a size 2 that's meant to be a healthier, like maybe like bigger bone, have size 8. A size 2 is horrible for them. You know what I'm saying? Like they're emaciated. It's like, I think that there is this sense of, once again, it goes down to the self-value. And I think that our culture with filters and filler and extensions, and you can buy beauty. If you have enough money, you can do just about anything to yourself that meets cultural standards. And that's also such a thing for me, because in other countries, like being really pale, white-skinned is like more beautifully aesthetic. And then here everybody tans and wants to self-tanner and make yourself darker. And then you've got, like, back in the day, if you were more overweight, that was a sign of beauty because you had money. And now it's like, let's all be a size 0 and spend 6 hours in the gym every day and also get Ozempic, and let's do all the things that we can do. And it's not good for your body, though. It's not healthy, right? Like, there's a difference between being super fit and being healthy. If you're constantly restricting, So I think that it goes to, I do think attention seeking for some women is a big thing. And if you can make yourself enhanced in all these areas and you get the looks and the turns, but I don't think it's coming from the right kind of men. Right? So it's sort of just there's beauty, power, money. These are these things that we put on pedestals. And if you are chasing after those things, and you let that sink in. That's why
it makes me so sad.
Yeah. If you let that sink into your identity and who you are, and I have to be the pretty one, the, successful. Anytime you tie your identity to something, like, beauty fades. We're all on a ticking time clock that there's nothing we can do about it, right? Like, the older you get, like, and at the end of the day, it's a self-value, self-worth thing that I think if everybody were to get really honest, it's for, let me not feel the pain of, how do I feel when I feel ugly? How do I feel when I feel old? What does this say to me about me that I'm not getting a man's attention right now?
Right.
And it's you're losing the compass of being accepted, being loved.
And for you, like, I don't even know if I should bring this up, but you tell me if you don't want to answer it. But the particular journey that you were down, to me as the bystander, was like, literally, I was in shock at the invasiveness of what I guess I would deem her the perpetrator, part of the problem.
Yeah.
That all of a sudden you had to be responding to her texts and things. And I was like, what are you doing? Because it felt like all of the insecurity that was in that corner couldn't stand not coming over to try to feed off of you.
Yeah. Yeah, you hear about that, right? The woman that cheated with your husband reaches out to the wife and it's like, why? And I did experience that. And
it baffles me.
Yeah.
But it's a very
I was
thing.
like, whoa. And there's a sense of, I think if I were to try to put myself in these shoes, which I can't really, but there's a sense of shame. And if I can somehow connect with you, then I feel better about what I did. That's the only thing I can possibly rationalize in my brain. But I remember I was getting ready for my first date after the divorce. And I didn't date for a while. I was like, I need to heal. I had friends being like, you need to, and I was like, no, I am broken.
Yeah.
I'm broken. And I knew, like we talked about previously, I listened to this podcast and they talked about when you're going through a breakup or even a friendship, sever, like there's two ways to respond. You can have the hangover recovery method or the athlete recovery method. And the hangover recovery method would be like, drink away, text your ex at 2 a.m. Right. And then the athlete recovery method was like, okay, your shoulder just got injured. They injure their shoulder. They're not going to work out their shoulder. You can't. You have to rest it. So what do? They channel that and let's say they work out their lower body or they start channeling it. So it was like, okay, if your heart's been broken, don't date right away. Just give yourself a minute because you're not going to be, right. And at the same time, you're not well. You need to let it heal. And now you can also get stuck in I'm trying to heal and it takes 5 years and there's like, okay, go on a date. But at the same time, I knew I needed a minute because I was like, I need to let this sink in. I was also, it took me a while to even, I was in shock and trauma. But all that to say, I'm finally getting ready for my first date, which I took over 6 months to even think about doing. After the divorce was final, not just the discovery of the affair. And it was after the finality of it. Yeah. And I'm curling my hair. I'm nervous. I don't know how to go on a date. I'm like, what do we do these days? I don't know. I'm like, I haven't done this in 10 years. Yeah. And so I look down and I have messages on Instagram. It's like, he did it to me too, Betty, and
from this person.
Yeah. And I'm like, you mean he cheated on you? And now, mind you.
The fact that you even responded.
I probably hindsight, I probably should have not, right? There is a sense of, I should have probably had more like, what am I doing giving my energy to this? So that was on me.
Yeah.
But I'm also like, oh, did he cheat on her too? Right? Because in my brain, it's just because I'm not her. So, maybe he cheated on her too, So I remember getting these messages and I did engage and I did things. I didn't know what I was doing. Yeah. I was like, I probably shouldn't have done that. And oh man. And at the end of the day, I'd never been through it before. So there's no rule book on these things. And so I
think that's important to say.
Yeah.
Because there'll be a lot of mistakes that are made based on the fog.
Yeah.
That you're in.
And there's drama. There's the like, why are you talking to me about my what, and why do you feel like it's okay to act like we're some unit in this when you're the one, right? And at the end of the day, I mean, if anything, it shows the levels of like unhealth on so many levels. And I think if you just step out of I think what I've tried to do in general in life is stay curious and stay out of judgment. Because if I'm constantly going, oh, well, I just need to get curious and go, I wonder what I wonder what that was happening. I wonder what was going on there. Even with myself, when I would respond or do things, I'm like, why did I do that? And I'm like, I wonder what was that about?
Wow, that's a great
What was that about? Let's get curious here. And curiosity is one of the most powerful things in life that you can, like, judging other people will go away if you start asking questions. If you have a judgment towards someone, lean in and go, I wonder what's going on. And then get to know, ask them the question, what's going on with you right now?
Yeah.
Instead of building all these stories in your mind of why, and they're just like that, and this is how. Getting curious will ease a lot of problems in the world if we could all learn how to do that. But I think I started leaning into, why did she do that? You know, and maybe there was a sense, and I don't know that I'll have the answer to that ever.
Right.
I don't know. And that's the other thing. There's going to be a lot of things that you don't ever get the answer to.
And do you feel like now, you know, being over it and in a whole different chapter of your life, that you'd be like, oh, I do that so different now?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of things I could look back and go, man, I mean, I wish I would have had more, you know, self like, hey, this is really not okay. Yeah. You know, I like more of a backbone and more of a, like, now it wouldn't happen because I'd be like, absolutely not.
Right.
You know, I'm not going to be controlled. I'm not going to, like, succumb to that, but I couldn't get there until I walked through it. Right. That's the thing. You can know these things. We can talk about these words like betrayal and infidelity, and until you've been through it, it's a word to you with a concept around it that you don't have an experience tied to. And as I've looked back, though, I had to go, you know, I did the best I could with what I had. And you sort of, I like to live in that stance with people. Yeah. They're doing the best they can with what they've got. However, if this is the best you can do, then this is what this means for me. Yeah. And that's a boundary, right? It's not going, boundaries, you know, within relationships, boundaries are supposed to lead towards connection. Yeah. They're not meant to put a wall. It's not a wall. Right. It's a boundary line. But I think I learned that being able to go, okay, even for myself, having compassion for myself, because I just so didn't want to get anything wrong. I don't want to get it wrong. I want to walk this well. I want to walk this right. And there's just not really a way to know how to deal with some of this stuff. Right. How do I handle these messages? And what am I supposed to do with those photos that are released online and I'm like vomiting on the floor and crying and, you know, and so hindsight, it's like you do the best you can and then you learn, you know, and hope I never go through that again. I don't think I will, but at the same time, like, you know, I've got some, you know, experience under my belt now for how to handle certain things. And that's why when I have like someone that's gone through it or that's going through it, like let's say a woman that just found out. Yeah. I want to be like, oh, let's sit down. Let's you're actually really beautiful. Let's have coffee and let's sit down together. Yeah. Because I would love to, if you want, I'd love to talk to you about some of the things that I learned through the journey. Because people, there's a trust you have in your story. You texted me not too long ago about somebody else that was in this world that we love of worship that you know is caught in something, and you were really just trying to help the friend of somebody who was caught in another affair. How to handle it. Yeah, how to handle even confrontation, where I think that's about you, where the kindness, the believe the best, you know, Betty who believes the best, the sweet, naive Betty, that you're still all of those things, but you've gained the balance of wisdom to actually call a red flag. Like, before I talk about Seth and your journey with this, you know, you're a newlywed, you've just been married in the last, 7 months to Seth, who is just a beautiful guy. What would you say, here are red flags to begin asking the questions so that you don't get in such a fog you can't see the red flags? Yeah. I'm going to talk about some red flags and then I'm going to talk about green flags. Okay. So some of the biggest red flags when I hear someone talking about a relationship they're in, if someone is very controlling, if you have a controlling party, and it's hard to necessarily know what that looks like, right? Yeah. But if someone's really controlling another person, that is a huge red flag. I think specifically this can be harder for men, but having friends and accountability, or the lack of friends and accountability, and they're sort of this, I do it on my own kind of, is that can be really tough because they're not letting other people in. They're not willing to listen. If you can't look at yourself and own, if you can't own, man, I was wrong. If you can't say a heartfelt apology, and what I want to say about a heartfelt apology is it's not the same as, okay, well, I'm so sorry. Or I did that. Okay, I'm sorry, but you were just being really, you were frustrating me right then. Or I'm sorry, you made me, that's not an apology. Yeah. An apology goes, I am so sorry, period. And also, in some aspects, tries to rectify the situation. If I spill coffee all over your white rug, and then I'm just like, oh, I'm sorry. I mean, what should I do to rectify? I should try to clean it up. I should probably offer to buy you another one. You know, like that's an apology, owning what you did. And then also doing the best you can to not keep doing the same thing. If you keep saying you're sorry for the same thing over and over and over and nothing's changing, you're talking about words, not actions. And that's something I would say is the biggest red flag is sometimes people can be very charming and very deceiving with their words. You have to look at the actions and you have to look, I would even say, how do you feel on the other side of this person? What does your nervous system feel like? Are you kind of feeling on eggshells? Are you worried about, do you feel safe? Do you feel at ease? Do you feel seen? Do you feel heard?
Or full of anxiety?
Do you feel cherished? Let's take it another. Do you feel loved? Do you feel adored? Like, right? And I think that red flag of not being able to own, blaming other people, being a victim, putting it on, oh, well, you know, I'm just stressed because of blah, blah, blah. Great. We're all stressed. We all have stressors, right? And being able to look at, I'm going to work on this so that I can love you the way Christ loved the church, or so that I can love you the best way that I can. And both sides have to do that. And then green flags, I mean, are going to be the opposite of the red flags in so many ways. But I think being able to be open-hearted and open with your story, even the painful pieces. I think it's like Brene Brown, she talks about the wholehearted people, and it's the people that are able to own their story and tell their story with their whole heart, even the hard parts. I mean, I don't love some of the things I say when I talk. When someone's like, what's your story? I'm like, well, pull up a chair because this is really wild and messy and painful. But being able to own your story and be honest with your struggles, the second you say, I really struggle with, I don't care what it is. I don't care if it's cocaine. I don't care what it is. I struggle with this. That is number one, such a good thing, because the opposite is I don't look at that. I hide it. I let these lies continue to build up. And then I'm a conflicted person trying to be in a relationship. It just doesn't work. Yeah. So I think the green flags are being able to be open. And I know that's hard for men a lot of times in our culture. We have this masculinity and you know, we don't cry and we don't talk about things, but really like having emotional intelligence and being emotionally aware and being able to talk about what you're dealing with is so important. Yeah. Otherwise, what are we doing? Good. You know what I mean? Yeah. So that's what I would say. I think, you know, look at also just the way you feel on the other side of any relationship.
And you got to balance the suspect, because as we get into Seth, the thing that I love that you were telling me was that Hey everybody. Hey everybody. Hey Tribes community. Welcome again to Daily Devotional Cooking in the Kitchen with Rita. I've had a lot of people ask me for when are you going to do this and when are you going to do that and when are you going to do this? Well, I have created a platform on my website under the tab community where you will be then taken to tribes. And I am inviting you to be part of my tribe. We are doing Bible studies and daily devotionals and throwing some cooking shows in there on my favorite recipes.
Bon appetit.
Doing mentorships and songwriting things that we're going to be uploading. So if you want to be part of my tribe, part of my community, please go to ritaspringer.com, click on that community tab. On that, there is a subscription tier that you can subscribe to where you can get different content.
Every song has a story.
If you want more content, join my community. Well, just like, okay, let's talk about Seth, your husband now.
Mm-hmm.
You go through I think it's a horrible process in online dating.
Oh my gosh.
Like these apps. Sometimes I'm in a room full of single women, and for me, I'm probably the oldest one in the room, but I'm looking around, I'm like, these are like stunning single women that are like trophy prizes. Like any man in his right mind would be blessed to get one of these girls in this room. But it's almost like they're these nuggets of gold in this world where guys are walking around, they can't see it because they're too busy. What do you call them? Gym rats?
Yeah. We were talking about that.
You go through years of online dating and that's what you're like, that's what you're hinging, right?
Right.
It's almost like this person after person after person after person that's trying to
It's very disturbing. And I think we should do a psychological study on what the dating apps have done to the society.
If I could save the pictures of the times that I was on, I actually have in a little file somewhere, but I would never want to put them out online because but I do register. I'm like, I think I'm healed of so much of my trauma because I find this book. Like, I don't want somebody like this.
Yeah.
And it's inconceivable to me that that's what's out there. But you do this for a while and then you meet Seth. And you come close a couple times to like, well, maybe he's the one, maybe this guy's the one. But then it's not.
Yeah.
And then so talk about what Seth like comes in, and even I think I'm comically laughing because there was a point in your relationship where you found your own hair on his sleeve. And you
Poor
put
guy.
it into a plastic bag because you were suspect.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I mean, the
This guy's
patience.
so patient.
The patience of that man. He is second to none.
Right,
I
because
mean,
his story is not your story.
right. So absolutely. I will say the dating apps are really hard. I'm always, when I'm with married couples, I'm like, just stay married because it is
like a movie to
the
me. It's
wild,
like a
wild
reality
west
TV
out
show.
there. It's the wild, wild west. And I do not
And
recommend
I'm not
it.
knocking any of you
No.
girls or guys out there that are on apps.
I mean, I did it and I met someone on there.
times.
Yeah.
It's just like, whoa.
It's hard, and it's hard for so many reasons. You're, in the sense, you are sort of trying to sell yourself in a very short, how can I be really funny with my prompts and make these profile pictures? And I don't think it's easy in any sense. You have these moments of feeling so defeated. There's nothing out there. And then,
the like my age bracket, like the people that are like, I don't know if it's smiley face or whatever you do. But the people that would comment on my app or my whatever profile, I'm like, you're 82. You know what I'm saying? Dressed like Superman.
yeah.
And And so the guys that wanted my age bracket were 20 years older than me.
Yeah.
And my age bracket were only after the girls
20-year-olds.
I
Yeah, that's not fun.
And this is like, you can say you're a Christian.
Right.
And you can't say you're faith-filled.
Right.
And these are the guys that are responding. So it is the wild.
It's a journey. It's a
but
journey.
Did you find Seth on one of these apps?
Yeah, we were, and that was kind of the fun. That was kind of the funny story with this was, I was 100% going to cancel on our first date because I had just got back on the apps, and in my fashion, I went on like 8 dates in 8 days. I was like, coffee 1 hour. Cause I was over the talking on the app. I'd forget which one was which. I'm like, I need to meet you, see you in person. I'm no longer giving you 4 hours of my night. I'm not doing dinner. We're going to meet an hour. Let me see if you are what you say you are, as much as I can see with the naked eye, because that's the other thing. Sometimes you look completely different. You're like, wow, these filters are wild. They can really do things that aren't real. All that to say, I had gone on all these dates, and then I had heard from this other guy that I was kind of talking to, a friend of a friend, and I really didn't want to meet someone on an app. I was like, it's not going to happen that way for me. I'm going to friend of a friend, and the problem is these days, like, you used to meet at like a coffee shop, or like people are on their phones all the time. Bible study.
Like
what a concept.
Like young singles group.
Yeah.
That's just
church.
Not the thing anymore.
Yeah. So anyway, I cleared the queue, all these guys, because this one guy was like, hey, and I started being like, okay, I really want to see what happens with him. And we had been sort of talking back and forth for like a year on Instagram. He lived in another state, and I really was like, I want to see what happens with this guy. And so he comes back around, and I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to clear the queue. I'm going to focus on maybe this might happen with this guy. So I literally text all these people I went on these dates with. Bye. Hi, Kyle. Hi, Greg. Hi, Brad. It was so good to meet you. Unfortunately, I'm not interested. Whatever. So I forgot about Seth, because he was
he in the queue?
Well, he was scheduled for a date on Friday, and I forgot because we scheduled it for the next week because he has a son. And so we scheduled it for the time that he wouldn't have to get a babysitter. And so I just forgot about him, and I cleared the queue. And then I'm trying to see what happens with this other guy. And then he sort of would come in hot, text me, and then all of a sudden I wouldn't hear from him. And that, no, that's a different, that was my first date. No, this was a different guy. And so anyway, I'm like, I pray, and I'm like, because all of a sudden he kind of drops off again, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like, and he's like 40 years old. I'm like, he wants to get married, wants to have family, loves Jesus. I'm like, what is the deal here? Right. And I think having a problem with commitment is a really big thing specifically with men, but I think women struggle with it too. And so anyway,
but guys really do have an issue with it.
100%. I forgot about Seth, and then I prayed. I'm like, I either want to hear from this guy or Jesus by Friday. Like, I'm like, it's on a Wednesday. I'm like, I want to hear. And then Friday rolls around, and I don't hear from Jesus. I don't hear from this guy. And I forget about Seth. And then I'm like, okay, well, I'm not going because I just cleared the queue, and he's a Hinge guy, and I'm not doing an online date again. But he got there early because that's how he is. And so he is like, hey, I'm here. And I was like, oh, he drove from Grapevine to Dallas. Like, so, I could walk from my apartment. So I'm like, I'm not going to just leave the guy. He drove all the way.
I mean, Betty would.
That's rude. So I walked down like 20 minutes. He was on the phone with his friends, and he was like, this girl's not coming. Like, I was like, my friend is having a debacle, because she was, and I was with a friend. And then I was like, he's there. I'm going to go. I'll give it an hour, And then, so little did I know. Later, I was like, oh, that was Friday, the 22nd. I didn't think I heard from Jesus. But I guess I did, because that was the day that I met Seth. Yeah. And it was like, I do think it was very rare, Yes. I mean, it was a very rare story. And I know for me, something I had to unwind was I wasn't used to kindness and consistency and communication. And so I say this, but this is how you can tend to.
Ladies, are you listening?
Ladies, are you listening? You can end up in the same kind of relationship with a different guy, right? It's like you have these guys that you end up going, oh man, it's the same story, different person, right? But I think I had to lean into, if what I want is someone that's going to be consistent and kind and loving, and you can say that all day long, but when what feels comfortable to you is the opposite, right? And your brain likes to feel comfortable. So you always seek to feel comfortable. And the problem is when comfort is mistreatment, abuse, someone giving you breadcrumbs, when that feels normal, the opposite of that feels unnormal and uncomfortable. And so you have to sort of rewire, like, I say I want kindness, but then when it's showing up, I'm like, what's wrong with you?
Wow.
Yeah.
He was so kind to you.
He was, I mean, I had already I dated a guy before him, and I had already sort of started the unwiring process in my brain through that. But I had to be like, no, he's being consistent. He's communicating, but also it's matching. This is something I'll say. It has to match where you're at in the relationship. If someone is coming in guns blazing, bringing flowers, doing all these things, like that can be sweet. That can also be love bombing. Like, that doesn't match where we're at. Seth was very communicative. He was making plans with me. He was clear. About 2 weeks in, he opened up his phone and he was like, hey, I don't expect you to reciprocate this, but I just want you to know I have paused the dating apps. I want to get to know you. I want to date you. I'm not talking to anyone else. And in the world of online dating, you could be talking to 50 other people, and there is this sense of like, well, we're still seeing each other, but are we seeing other people too?
Right.
And so he was just, I didn't have to question it. I didn't have to question it. I knew where he was at, and I was like, this is great. And it also felt weird. I was like, why are you telling me that? And then later I was like, well, he's being clear, and clear is kind.
Not used to being clear.
And I'm used to like trying to guess and figure out what, like, no.
Gosh.
Right? So there's just this like way of rewiring to go, if you say this is what you want, then you have to sit, if you're used to the opposite, you have to sit in the discomfort of what you want. The very thing you could want, right? People that live in poverty mentality, let's say, and then all of a sudden they're blessed. It can be really hard to be like, there's a tension with being in the opposite of what your go-to is, you know? And so I think I had to kind of rewire myself to be able to go. And then I'd be like, is he lying? Is he, I mean, poor guy. Like, he was under a microscope. This is a funny story. So he...
Whose hair is this?
Yeah. That was not that long ago, sadly enough. But he handles me with so much grace. And he never is like, what's wrong with you? I mean, it's always, he knows what I've been through. And he can sit with me and hold me and like, hey, that's not me. And I said this to you the other night, but you have to sort of separate, right? Like your traumatic experience, let's say a father, your mother, right, your ex-husband, the person that hurt you, this experience. And then you start, dating a new guy, and it's really easy to sort of tie them together. And I had to really be intentional to be like, this is not my ex-husband. This isn't the guy I went on a date with. This is this person. This is Seth. I need to get to know him outside of all my experiences that are now telling me a story about him as a man that may or may not be true. Right. I get to find that out. Is this true or not? Yeah. Right. So you kind of have to separate if you can. Our brain likes to lump everything together and categorize. That's why, all men are cheaters. Right. Well, that's not true. All women just, we do it with everything. And it's like, that's actually not true. It's actually, you're losing the humanity and the human because you're deciding to put somebody in a category, in a stereotype, if you will. And it's really, you have to constantly pull that apart. So I had this journey of pulling apart my experience with my ex-husband and looking at this with fresh eyes. And also I was so worried that I was going to do it. I was going to repeat it. I'm going to be in this relationship with someone that's going to cheat on me again.
Yeah.
And my therapist said this to me at one point. He was like, you're not the same woman. And I'm not. I'm not the same girl. I'm not the same girl that I was when I was in that marriage, when I was in that relationship, when I was walking through my divorce. I'm not the same as I was. And so he was like, you can trust that. That girl wouldn't be with that person because you're this girl now. Right. You're this person now. So you can lean into the I've changed. And I've got some backbone now, and I've got some self-trust, and I can navigate this.
Right.
And it was hard.
And you were with him for about a year?
We were together a year and a half, almost 2 years. He proposed.
Almost 2 years.
He proposed May 15th.
So May of this year.
Mm-hmm. So it's been 6 months.
But May of this year was that you'd been dating for 2 years.
We were dating for 2 years, September of this year.
Got it.
So it was like a year and a half, a year and 8 months when he proposed.
Bring us to that place, because you're going through all this stuff, but you're learning to separate him from your experience with your ex. And then you're on a beach in Florida and he pops the question.
Yeah. Yeah. So.
And 2 days later, you're married.
Yeah.
So just talk about that.
Yeah. I'll try to condense this too, but essentially we were going on a trip to celebrate one of my friends' birthdays. Yeah. I thought. I didn't know that they're all in on it. And my friends they're like mentors for me. They've been in my life for 20 plus years. Her husband is a pastor, and I thought we were going to celebrate her birthday. They have a condo in Florida. And so I have no idea that he has this whole thing planned.
Yeah.
And so we get out there. Thursday, we're going to go to dinner, and he brings in these 3 blue dresses that he brought for the trip, which was very on par for him. Like it wasn't, I knew he was going to give me a gift, and he's just like that. And so he brings me, pick which one you want to wear. And so I'm getting ready, and I realize I'm more dressy than my friend, and it's her birthday. So I'm like feeling bad. Like I'm dressed up a little bit more.
Yes.
And, anyway, I'm very thrown off, all that to say. We go to dinner. We end up we went to this little place, and then he's like, let's go. We go for a walk. We go for a walk on the beach, and he ends up proposing. He had flown in one of his best friends from New York, who's an incredible photographer.
Yeah.
So he proposes. We'd already been talking about getting married. I wasn't expecting to get proposed to until probably September. I thought it would be some time.
But you knew
so
this was the fact.
So I was very shocked, but I'm also we immediately have a photo shoot on the beach. I'm crying. There was so much that I won't even go into, but God literally redeemed me down to the day. And so we take all these pictures, and then we're walking up the boardwalk, and I have this moment. I'm so excited, and I'm also like, can I do this? Like, what if I can't do this again? Like, I'm so scared of what I've been through potentially happening again. And we're walking up the boardwalk, and all of a sudden, he has a 9-year-old, and he was there because it was part of the plan that I didn't know about. He's like, Dad, it's a bald eagle. And this giant bald eagle flies over us and just like perches. And
which is very rare.
Very rare in Florida. My friends have a condo there. They're like, we've never seen a bald eagle in Florida. And it's just majestic. I've never seen one that close in person. And the photographer's taking pictures, and like we look it up, and bald eagles represent new beginnings, freedom, courage, resilience, and a message from the divine or the creator. So after the bald eagle moment, I felt so much peace, and I was like, okay. I was like, you cannot make this up. And then we're walking down the boardwalk, and he's like, so how do you feel if we get married on Saturday? And I'm like, Saturday?
Because it's Thursday.
We can't get married on Saturday. We're in Florida. I'm like, there's nobody here. Like, what are we doing? He's like, well, it's an option if you want. I'm like, what do you mean? And my friend Sonia is like, we've been busy. Like, and so he had flown in, he shipped 33 dresses to my friend's condo. He had an appointment to get
and here, I want to say this about him, because this is what I love about your stories about him. Like, part of his business and what he does is he knows how to staff things.
Events, yes.
And he's very good at knowing who to call, knowing what to do.
Making it
so
happen.
That's part of, he's a making it happen kind of guy.
Yes.
It's not like some controlling thing.
No.
It's like, this is his shtick. This is what he does.
One of my best friends, my mentor there, she used to own a brick and mortar bridal store. And so the two of them together, it's like, They planned all these things. 33 dresses. 33 dresses
he had flown in.
Appointment at a bridal store where I could buy off the rack. There was a hair appointment, a nail appointment, the flowers, like the wedding band. I mean, everything was.
He'd done it all.
4-page itinerary.
But if you don't want to.
Yeah. Oh, but he was like, it's just an option. And he was also like, hey, if you don't want to do it this way, we do not. This is just, we could. And I started to think about it. I'm like, well, this is crazy. This is so crazy. But
Did you try on all 33 dresses?
Oh, yeah, I did. Of course. Of course I did. Took a whole morning. And that was another really sweet part of it because I told him, I was like, listen, the dress is important to me. If I can't find a dress that works on, and he's like, yeah, if you don't find a dress, it was very like, if this can happen, great. I mean, if it had started raining, if there was things we could be like, okay, we're not going to do it like that. But it all started clicking in. And I loved it for me. I know some women, like if you're really type A, like you're not gonna be able to do that. I had already done a 400-person wedding and the stress of it and listening to so many other people's opinions, and it can be, I'm very inclusive, and it can be hard. And so in a sense, it took away all of the stress, the decision making. And I mean, nothing was skimped on. It was amazing. And so the next day I tried on the dresses. There was one that I really liked.
Yeah, but out of the 33, only one. That's
I mean, some of them, I liked them, but I was like, I don't think it's for, what I was looking for. Right. And so I liked a couple of the other ones, but
But you go to the shop because
so I go to the
has
store.
This appointment at a shop.
Yep. And there's not that many in my size. It's like 1,500 dresses, buy off the rack. So I find the ones in my size. There's this one that I love. And it had a belt on it, a pearl belt, and it was way too long. And the train was way too long for the beach. So I'm like, this isn't going to work because it's Friday and we're getting married on Saturday. So I was like, okay, this isn't going to work. And the girl that was working there at the store, she's like, let me call the seamstress. She lives an hour away, but let me just call her and see. So she calls the seamstress. She has her on speaker. And she's like, oh, I'm 8 minutes down the road. Let me swing over and take a look. So this girl comes in. She takes off the belt. I hadn't even paid for it yet. You're not supposed to do that.
Yeah. She
pins up everything. She starts pinning it up. She's like, I can have this ready for you by tomorrow at 8 a.m. with no rush fee. And she was a wedding coordinator. She had a wedding the next day. So it wasn't like she wasn't busy. And I just start bawling. So when the dress clicked in, I was like, am I getting married tomorrow? This is insane. Wow. This is insane. And later, and then the morning of was so amazing. I mean, he got me a workout class, which no one would know how much I loved that. I got to
I did this morning.
Clear my head. Yes, we did it today. But I did a workout class. I walked back. I showered. I had a nail appointment. Came back. I had 2.5 hours to journal and pray, and I wrote my vows. And then I had my hair appointment, and then we drove with the dress. My friends had picked up the dress. It was just so perfect organized. Go in, get ready. Anthony comes in, takes my pictures. Then I'm walking up the boardwalk in my wedding dress. And I have this other moment. I'm like, okay, am I okay? I'm so excited and I'm so scared. But I wasn't feeling scared about him.
Yeah.
I was feeling scared about the concept of marriage and a wedding. And so I'm walking up and Sonia's with me, my friend, and these 2 red cardinals just fly. And we're in Florida all the time. We never see bald eagles and red cardinals. And they represent hope. They also represent those who've gone before you, who've passed away. And I just had this moment with God in my wedding dress. You cannot make this up. This bald eagle, these red cardinals. And I just felt so much peace, supernatural peace. Yeah. And I walked down. We said our vows. It was so beautiful. I mean, everything about it was so intimate. I mean, they were like, come down around 5:30. There was no like, got to get here and got it. Like it was peace, peace. And later I was talking to my therapist and he was like, because he actually knew about it. Seth had gone to therapy with me and told my therapist about it. Like they were like in the hallway or in the bathroom. And he was like, hey, this was, and so my therapist knew about it, which I love. My therapist has been with me since all of the hell. And he was like, I think an engagement season would have been really hard for you.
Yeah.
He was like, I think 48 hours was just about perfect.
Right.
So it was like, I felt like I was in a movie. And all of a sudden, I'm standing on the other side of, and the relationship and dating him was so healing too.
Yeah.
But the way it all happened with the proposal and the wedding, and it felt like such a gift to me.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden I was like, man, I remember waking up and being like, I can't believe that you did this, God. Like I believed that he was going to redeem things and there was going to be restoration and there was going to be something in my life. I believed these concepts, but I was sitting on the other side of the worst pain that I've ever been through and an unimaginable pain. And even when I talk about it, there's so many things that I think I know about 40%, I mean, so sitting on the other side of it and having this person, this man, like, it was like God just changed the page. It was like my chapter changed. Same story. What happened, but I'm in a different place now. And I tell people I still feel it, but it's lost its sting.
Yeah.
And I am on the other side of what I knew God would do, but being there, actually being in it.
Because even the dates were kind of miraculous.
It was crazy.
You had to realize
everything about it. I mean, he ended up proposing to me on May 15th, which I picked the dates for the trip, so he didn't know this.
Yeah.
But that was the day my ex proposed to me, and it was my ex's birthday.
I mean, you weren't intentionally thinking that.
No.
It's just...
Right. And it was the day I found out the divorce was final. So May 14th, 2021, I was still wearing my wedding ring, and I didn't want to take it off till it was final. We'd already signed the paperwork in April. Yeah. And it was COVID, but I wanted the final, the final doc from the judge. And I remember texting my pastors. It was May 14th. I just moved out of my beautiful house that we had bought together. I'm in an apartment. There's boxes everywhere. I am just devastated.
Yeah.
I'm thin as a rail.
Yeah.
I was having a hard time eating and panic attacks. And I remember though, I was like, I really feel like I want to take my ring off on May 15th because it was 7 years to the day that my ex had put it on my finger. Right. And I had this whole thing, like at the midnight hour, I'm going to take it off, like Paul and Silas at midnight, they, worship and the chains fall off. So I text my pastors about 10 a.m. and I'm like, hey, I really want to take this off, but it's not final yet. And I really wanted it to be final. And my pastor's like, listen, take it off. Like, it's COVID. We don't know how long this is going to take. You've been under something. And he said to me, he was like, watch what happens to your business. Watch what happens to your bank account. Watch what happens to your friendships. Watch what happens to your relationship once you're out from under this thing that you didn't even know you were under. Yeah. And so I remember literally that was at 10 a.m. I get the text and I'm like, okay, I'm going to take it off at midnight. And then 2 hours later, I checked my email and the judge sent the email with it was final.
That it was final.
And it had actually been final on the 10th and they didn't send it to us yet. So it was a Friday. And so midnight, I did the whole thing. I took my ring off at midnight. I mean, it had been on my finger for 7 years. I had tan line. I put it on the counter. I'm bawling. I'm like, what is my life? And I remember the Lord was like, you know what I do with ashes, right? And I was like, I don't know what you're going to do, but I know you're going to do something.
Yeah.
And that was on May 15th, 2021. And then to fast forward, I picked the dates for the trip and have no idea he's going to propose. He had no idea. He knew the story, but he didn't know the date was May 15th. So I actually mentioned it to him on the Monday and he's freaking out. He's like, oh my gosh. He texts my friend Sonia because he has this all planned for proposing on Thursday and getting married on Saturday. It's not like he can push it to Friday because we don't have time, and we're going
it's
home.
just full redemption. Like those dates were even redeemed by the Lord.
She said that to him. She goes, God is going to redeem that day for her. She's like, this could not be more perfect, and nobody could have planned that better than God. Like, he literally redeemed the day for me. So when Seth proposed, this is one of the things he said. He was like, I know what today is, and I feel like God wants to redeem this day for you. And I was just bawling. I was like, how in the world? Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
And then I'll tell this one other thing. So I was at church in August of 2020. Okay. So back up.
Yeah.
Found out about the affair on October 15th.
Yeah.
August of 2020, this man and his wife come up to me. He's amazing. He's like, hey, I had a picture that I want to share with you that I feel like is from God. And I was a little like, okay, that doesn't happen that much at my church, but he was very adamant. He's like, I want to share this with you. So I saw this picture of you, and you were being dragged along by a big ship. It was like the Titanic.
Yeah,
it was steamrolling.
Yeah.
There's a rope tied to your leg, and you're just getting, the winds and the waves are just knocking you. You're just getting hit. He said, and I saw it, the tighter you pulled on the rope, the tighter it got around your leg. He said, I saw the Lord give you a sword. You cut the rope. You sank through the ocean. You came up through the sand. You were glowing. And so he goes, so there's a death happening, but it's unto resurrection. And this is just a season. So at that point, I'm like, marriage 2.0, we're going to resurrect. Like, I wasn't thinking there was going to be this big affair come out. I just knew God was going to do something. And then fast forward and it all falls apart. And then the day that the judge has the paperwork ready for us to sign was April 2nd, and it was Good Friday. So it was Easter weekend. It's the day that Jesus died, right? And then he's resurrected on Sunday. And so I actually posted, you can see it on my Instagram. I posted about the divorce on the day we signed the paperwork on April 2nd. And at the end of my post, I was like, I don't know what's coming, but I know what he does with ashes. And I was like, it's not lost on me that today of all days, I'm signing this. And this is from a place of, I really believed that it was going to be resurrected.
Yeah.
And then it died, right? And so that was really powerful to me that I had this word in August, and then who would have known what was coming my way? And then of all the days for the judge to have it ready was Good Friday. And later I was sharing this story with my friend. I remembered it. I kind of forgot about that. And she's like, isn't it so cool that he said you sank through the ocean and you came up through the sand and you were glowing and you got married on a beach? And I was like, oh yeah. Like, and I would have never thought I would get married on a beach.
Right.
Like, so the whole thing was just like, I just can't. And I had a friend,
precious of the Lord.
I had a friend who gave me a card in 2020, and the card says, it's just a lot. And you open it up, and I mean, she was writing all these things. I was in the thick of it. She's like, right now, it's just a lot of really bad things. And it was. It was a lot of really bad things. And she said, one day, there's going to be a day where it's just a lot, but it's a lot of the really beautiful things and the really good things. And so that day that I'm going to my workout class, coming back, I'm getting married, I'm like, what is happening? I'm like, oh my gosh, this is a lot, but it's a lot of really good things. So it was like the level of the pain I went through, like the joy on the other side of that was just as great as the greatness of the pain.
Yeah.
And I always say this. I remember having a moment when I was not well. I was in so much pain, and the Lord was like, hey, he reminded me of Jesus on the cross where they gave him gall mixed with wine. And it was a numbing mechanism, and he refused it. And he said, if I refused the numbing mechanism, I want you to as well. Because I remember sitting there being like, I saw a bottle of wine on. I was like, I just didn't want to feel. Yeah. I did not want to feel, and I wanted to numb it out. So I did my best to not numb my pain through the process. And I was like, man, we want the beauty without the ashes, the joy without the mourning, the power of his resurrection without the fellowship of his sufferings.
Right.
And I was like, the most beautiful things come through, like grapes are crushed for wine,
Right.
oil is pressed, diamonds go through fire. I was like, I don't know what you're going to do, but I know you're going to do something. And I also knew if I numbed it, if you numb your pain and your disappointment, you also numb your joy and your empathy, right? You can't selectively numb. And so I remember trying my best to not numb out. And then later when I was on the other side of it and I was feeling that it's just a lot, but this is a lot of the good things. I was like, man, I think it's so important to let yourself feel and experience the pain of what you're in, because on the other side of it, you're able to feel and experience the beauty and the joy at the same level.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like, man, I wouldn't trade it now for the world. I wouldn't want to go through it again, but I wouldn't take it back and I wouldn't trade it.
Wow.
Would I handle some things differently? Absolutely. But at the end of the day, I'm like, what I got out of this and where I'm at now, I just can't make it up.
Yeah. Hey, everybody, this is Rita Springer. Thank you so much for coming in and joining me on the podcast here with Worship is My Weapon. There's a lot of things I'm doing right now. And one of the things that we provide alongside this podcast is a newsletter that we do that we send out to those of you that are subscribed, where I just answer questions and kind of give you information. And sometimes you guys are able to write in with questions that you just are curious about. We love that. We love that interaction. I actually love to interact with those of you that want something a little bit more beyond the podcast. So if that's you, make sure to get our newsletter, sign up for our newsletter, subscribe to the newsletter, and stay in touch with all the things that we're doing here on the podcast in that newsletter. Okay, my final question for you then is, I call this podcast Worship is My Weapon, because I think that the relationship that we have with the Lord, the worship that we give God, the worth that we're throwing on God, there's a weapon that he gives us in times like this that makes singing out worth it. Mm-hmm. And it almost feels like that sword. Yeah. Grabbing that sword. For you in this, what has been in the fight of losing a marriage to a disastrous, almost unbelievable, inconceivable burden of weight, what has been your weapon in worship, and how did it affect your worship?
Yeah. I think it's funny because right after I got out of a meeting, right before I found out about the affair, it was about 3 days before, they had me on leading at Upper Room, and I sang the song, The Goodness of God. And I remember there's the verse that's like, in darkest nights, you were close like no other. And I was like, in darkest. And I mean, it didn't sound great, but I remember feeling the reality of when you worship in that place, not when you're on the other side and you're on the mountaintop and things are going, and people talk about this, the valleys and but there really is something about being gut-wrenchingly honest with God that I think is a weapon of worship, and being able to go, I'm not okay. He doesn't need our okay. I mean, I remember being like, I have to always say God is good. And really, I think when I encountered so much of him was when I'd be like, this sucks. and he would just be with me and sit with me in it. And the thing is, I think as humans, and specifically in the church, we want an outcome attached to worship. Like, if I pray this person gets healed. If I worship, then my marriage is going to work. If we sort of attach these things to God. And I think the most powerful thing is when you're weak and you're so broken. And as my life has shifted, one thing I continue to pray is I'm like, God, help me to keep my dependence on you. always. Because there's nothing like being so weak and dependent and broken that opens up this space for him to fill, right?
Yeah.
And so for me, I think continuing to be able to worship from a place of deep, gut-wrenchingly honest pain, and not trying to hide that, and not trying to be like, but God is good. Right. I can stand on his goodness, and I can still say, this is horrible what I'm dealing with right now. And so it felt a little unnatural to me at first, because I was like, should I even be doing a prayer set right now? Like, I'm in shambles. And it's like, oh, absolutely. Come sit at my feet and pour it out, because that is where, I mean, he just wants to meet with us where we're at. He's not asking us to be something else, or, oh, I need to wait until I'm in a better spot and have my stuff together, right? So I think my weapon was my weakness and my honesty of, God, I don't have this. I know you do somehow. I don't know what it's going to look like. And nor do I want to try to attach that to, because that's where we get so disappointed. And then it's like, well, at the end of the day, God just didn't do it the way you wanted it to happen. So if you can look at that and let go of your own way that you decided this should be, and just let it come and let him walk with you through it, it's very powerful. And I will say it changed the way even when I see like really hypey worship and like this, I'm like, I really love seeing when people are in a really hard place. And obviously I don't want everybody to be in a hard place. I want you to, but there's something
really opportunity for
there's something really powerful when you get really honest with where you're at. You know, so and it was a weapon for me of, I don't have to have all is well. And if you look at that song, It Is Well With My Soul, right? He just lost his entire family. And he's literally like, come what may, whatever comes my way, I've got you. And that's the promise, right? The promise isn't that we're all going to live to be 95. And, you know, I had a loss of a friend last year. It was 36 years old. It was devastating. It's like, how we don't know. We don't know how many days we have. We have no idea. And the promise is that we're held and that he's with us in whatever comes. And so even now, when I was on the other side of this, I'm like, wow, I'm actually doing really good. I actually feel, and there was a sense of like, okay, well, something's coming now. Like, here comes the other rug. Like, and I was like, you know what? There will be more. There will be more painful things. There will be loss. There will be death. There will be things that I have to continue to walk through. It's not like I went through this one thing and now it's coming. It's life. But there's a resilience that comes when you can lean on, it's not on me to figure this out.
So good.
You know?
Thanks for sharing your story.
Yeah. You're best. So welcome.
If you are in the Dallas, or probably in the state of Texas, but
DFW.
In the DFW area, and you're needing to buy a house, you want to sell a house, Betty Joyce is your gal.
I'm your girl. I can help you out.
How do they get a hold of you? What's your Instagram handle is Betty Joyce
Whalen, WHALEN, Betty Joyce Whalen, and then my professional one is Betty Joyce Real Estate.
Betty Joyce Real Estate. And you actually do a really amazing job at that. Thank you. And she sold my house in how long? I did.
Let me tell the tiny little story of people walked in Rita's house, and I mean, I had this open house and there were like 50 people there, and everybody would say, wow, it just feels so peaceful here. Oh, I love it. It just feels so peaceful here. And I was like, well, the woman, she worships. Oh, and then they were like, can we have Larry, her cat? Can we add him to the deal? But no, thank you so much. Thank you so much. So much. I love you. This was fun.